This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
It's the turtle breeding season, with turtles coming ashore at night to lay their eggs for the next several months. There are strict rules in force as to how humans can or cannot interact with the turtles to avoid endangering their laying season.
There is actually a prohibition on boats and even anchoring or transiting through a depth shallower than 20 meters, and that prohibition is between May 1st and October 31st.
And Systema Cyprus, which brings music to children of all nationalities and ages, is asking for donations of musical instruments.
The kind of instruments we need are the ones for orchestras, yes, so we have violins, we need violins, cellos, double basses, flutes, oboe, clarinet, saxophones, trumpets, trombones, French horns, and percussion instruments.
We're going to talk now about our very precious sea turtles because it's the breeding season and we have lots of beaches all over Cyprus where turtles come to lay their eggs. They're highly protected because they're very much endangered. So it's a warm welcome to our programme this week to Yanna Samuil from the Fisheries and Marine Research Department. Yanna, can you start by telling us a bit about the time frame of this, because they start laying the eggs now, but we have to be very careful on those beaches right the way through, I think, until September?
That's correct. Sea turtles in Cyprus start laying their eggs in very specific locations. The majority of them actually lay their eggs in the beaches of the Akamas Peninsula. And they start actually about right now. By mid-May, we have the first mature females coming out to lay their eggs. The eggs will remain buried in the sand for about 2 months before the first hatchlings start emerging. And then we have a continuation of adult females laying their eggs basically all through the end of July, early August at the very latest. So we have to wait for the very final clutches of eggs to hatch, and that typically puts us at the time frame of end of September. So there is actually regulation by the government and the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research where in the specific area of the Lara Doxeftra beach, which is one of the major nesting sites for both species of sea turtles, and especially the green sea turtle that we have in Cyprus, those prohibitions are in effect starting June 1st, actually, until September 30th. And those focus on the placing of umbrellas and sunbeds or tents on the beach, or actually remaining on the beach after dusk, and of course a prohibition on fishing by any means.
And a prohibition on lights, because that can disorientate the hatchlings, can't it, when they do emerge, and they usually use the moon, I think, and its reflection on the sea to head in the right direction. If there are lights higher up inland, they might make a mistake and head the wrong way.
That's correct. Actually, sea turtles are greatly impacted by light sources, and they typically, in their natural environment, use the light of the moon as it shines on the sea to get oriented towards which direction to follow to get in the water. So when there are other sources of light, especially from cars or nearby restaurants or even street lights, they get disoriented and actually follow the path the exact opposite way from where the sea is located. So light pollution is actually one of the threats that sea turtles are facing.
Other threats include, I think, some of these boats that do day trips around the areas where the turtles nest. And sometimes people are swimming very close to the turtles. Does that put the mothers off from coming ashore at night and laying their eggs?
Well, it is a threat, and there's actually, especially in the area mentioned previously, the Lara-Doxestra area in the Akamas protected site, there is actually a prohibition on boats and even anchoring or transiting through a depth shallower than 20 meters. And that prohibition is between May 1st and October 31st. Of course, professional fishermen can go through this area in May and in October. However, the problem with boating and boat traffic has been increasing in the past years, especially because of increasing boat traffic, also being used by the tourist industry as a means to encourage people to come and watch protected sea life from their boats. So we have been having a lot of incidents of sea turtles getting struck by the propellers of the boats because they get accustomed to thinking and connecting that a boat will probably mean food, because that is one of the methods that humans are using to attract sea turtles close to the boats, is to throw in food so they come close. And it is actually prohibited. As natural wild animals, there is law preventing any intervention, either getting close to them, touching them, or feeding them in any way that affects their behavior.
But yet we see on social media pictures of exactly that happening. How can you monitor this and, I suppose, punish the people who are doing it? Because they're making money from tourists who want to go and see the turtles, but they're totally ignoring the law.
Correct. That is unfortunately what is happening. So what the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research is doing, we have staff out there patrolling and reporting any incidents that they witness. We also focus a lot on education and awareness, so very targeted campaigns towards the tourist industry stakeholders, the boat owners, even hotel staff. And that is something that we have seen by educating and disseminating the information and making it clear. We have seen some changes in behavior, which is positive. But definitely more work needs to happen, because there needs to be a balance between protection of the environment and financial prosperity. And that is something that everybody needs to understand.
Has any boat owner ever been prosecuted and found guilty and fined for doing this?
I believe I'm not the responsible person dealing with this specific topic of fining and following up with the prosecution, but there are fines being given by the department on various violations pertaining to the protection of the marine environment.
And that brings us, of course, to all the illegal restaurants and kiosks and whatever that spring up almost every year in the protected areas. What's happening about that?
Well, that's under the authority of the other departments by the Republic of Cyprus. There are attempts to regulate those and any ones that are placed illegally to bring them down.
How confident are you, Jana, that all these things are being followed up by the relevant departments? Again, I say, we see regular posts on social media through the summer where clearly infringements are being made.
Well, especially as we are moving further into the obligations of the Republic to the European Union, and we have even penalties being placed upon from the Union, each department is taking it very seriously, and it's doing what they can to reinforce the law and implement it, and actually properly manage the marine protected areas or protected species, and minimize and mitigate all violations that occur. But you realize that it is not solely sufficient to penalize a wrongful behavior and action, but the effort that the departments are placing into educating and informing the people, so we change behaviors and correct our behaviors before we even carry them out.
So what would you say to people listening who aren't aware of what they should or shouldn't do? I think we all know that noise and so on, particularly in the evening when they shouldn't be on the beach because the turtles come out at night, don't they, to lay their eggs, but even disturbing a nest during the daytime. Most of them, I think, have those cages over them showing where they are to protect them from foxes and so on eating the eggs. But what should people who want to go to one of these beaches not be doing in order to play their part?
Correct. As you said, we protect sea turtle nests, and every year on average we protect close to possibly 1,800 to 2,000 nests across the island, maybe a bit more if it is a good season. And we protect them by placing aluminum cages on top with a sign, and that is not only to protect from natural predation from foxes, for instance, or crabs or seabirds, but it's also to inform the public to be careful at those locations. So something that the general public can simply do is, of course, stand at a distance from those nests. Definitely do not place any items, any umbrellas, any cooler boxes on top of those cages or right next to the cages, especially if the people are visiting a nesting beach. We ask that the families with young children, they can play in the sand away from the cages, but after they finish playing, to close up any big holes that they have dug or any sand castles that they have built to demolish those, because especially if it's the time of the year that hatchlings are coming out, they will want an easy path and clear path of any obstacles going into the water. So we can help with that. And of course, the most important in general, not just for the protection of sea turtles, is to not throw our rubbish either at the beach or in the water. And if we see anything, we can help clean up and protect the environment, because marine litter is actually one of the major sources of impacts that are negatively affecting the populations.
Yeah, and if they see plastic bags in the water while they're swimming, grab them and put them in the right place, rubbish bin, or take them home, because turtles tend to think those are jellyfish, don't they? And so many of them
Correct.
die because they ingest too much plastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or they may get entangled in them actually and suffer of either suffocation or die of starvation actually, because they cannot feed properly.
Is there any online site where perhaps you have as the department, people can go and see the do's and don'ts and educate themselves and anybody else they happen to be with in these areas?
Well, the general public can actually access the website of the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research to get information. And actually, there's currently several European-funded projects ongoing where the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research is a partner, and they focus on the protection of marine protected areas and also the protected species of Cyprus, so they can find information about marine turtles in there.
They're very precious to us here in Cyprus, and we should say, I mean, you mentioned 1,800 nests. People will probably say, oh, that's not a problem then, there's lots of them. The point is, though, isn't it, that only a very small percentage of the hatchlings actually make it to adulthood, because there are an awful lot of enemies in the water for them. And if they don't make it to adulthood, they won't be coming back, if they're female, to lay eggs again on the same beach, will they?
Correct. Yeah, there's actually 1 to 2 hatchlings out of 1,000 that actually do survive to adulthood, because the pressures and the dangers that they face start from the moment that the mature female lays the eggs to the moment that the newborn hatchlings attempt to cross the sandy beach and go to the water, to all the dangers that they face in the water. And one of the most recent dangers that we are facing is the impacts of climate change on the temperatures of the sand that the eggs are laid in.
Yeah, because that changes the sex of the turtles, doesn't it?
Correct, yes. As reptiles that sea turtles are, the sex of the egg is determined by the temperature of the surrounding environment. So what we have seen is that as the climate change is increasing temperatures, as the sun temperature that holds the eggs increases, the majority of the hatchlings are actually becoming female, instead of having 50-50 balance that's typical around a temperature of 29 to 30 Celsius. So in higher temperatures, we're seeing the majority of the eggs becoming females. Cooler temperatures, we would see mostly males coming out of the eggs. But the reality is that if the situations continue as they are, we will not have any males to mate with the females and reproduce. So we do have to take action to figure out ways to cool down the temperatures of the sand at the nesting sites.
That's another challenge. Well, it's a very interesting topic, I must say, and I hope that this will send people to your website, Yana, to determine exactly how they should behave around our precious turtle nests. Many thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That is Yana Samuil from the Fisheries and Marine Research Department of our Fisheries Department here in Cyprus.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
And in other news, there's been widespread condemnation of the government for declining to join other nations, urging Israel to permit the full, unimpeded flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. In total, foreign ministers of 22 nations signed a statement that called on the Israeli government to, and I quote, allow a full resumption of aid into Gaza immediately and enable the UN and humanitarian organizations to work independently and impartially to save lives, reduce suffering, and maintain dignity. The group said they would not participate in any arrangement that does not fully respect humanitarian principles. That follows Israel's recent announcement of a new model for delivering aid into Gaza. You may recall that earlier in the week, some 5 trucks were allowed to cross into the besieged areas. Benjamin Netanyahu made clear earlier this week that his decision to allow a minuscule amount of aid to enter Gaza is a tactical one aimed at quieting international condemnation of Israel's forced starvation of the Gaza people and to clear a path to a final solution imposed on the Palestinians. He's quoted as saying, "We're going to take control of all of the Gaza Strip," adding that delivering a minimal humanitarian aid, food and medicine only, would be allowed. He said that international pressure, including from pro-Israel Republican senators in the United States and the White House, required the appearance of humanitarian intervention. Quote again, "Our best friends in the world, senators I know as strong supporters of Israel, have warned that they cannot support us if images of mass starvation emerge," he said. They come to me and say, "We'll give you all the help you need to win the war, but we can't be receiving pictures of famine." He added that Israel needs to do it in a way that they won't stop us.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Systema Cyprus are putting out a call for donations of musical instruments. Now, if you haven't heard me talk to them before, let's start with their co-founder and director of communications, Miria Galli, and ask her about what the Systema Cyprus actually does and how they work. So, Miria, welcome back to the Cyprus News Digest. A little overview, if you will, for people who don't know what you do, so that then we can get on to the donation of instruments.
Hi, Rosie. Yes, so Systema Cyprus is a non-profit organization. We've been established since 2017, and what we do is we offer free music education to children and youth in Cyprus. And what does that mean is that we offer free instruments and free music lessons and free orchestra rehearsals to children. We're based in Nicosia and Larnaca, and we have orchestras. So we have symphonic orchestras, and children spend many hours in our program learning music, but also socializing and developing many more skills than just their musical skills. And so that's what we do. We have over 200 children in our program, and we always have a waiting list. So we currently have 100 children on waiting list. So the need for more musical instruments is constant.
Where do the children come from? Because I think it's pretty multinational, isn't it? And how old are they?
So multinational. So once we started, we tried to count our nationalities. Over 25 different cultures merged there at Systema Cyprus. And we have children from around 7 years old up to 18. Of course, if someone finishes school but they still want to play in the orchestra, they can still do. But many children start from the age of 7 when they're just confident enough to read,
So let's get on to this donation of instruments. I know you do this intermittently because you do have such a need for them. Let's start with what sort of instruments you're looking for, because I think it's for the orchestra, isn't it?
Exactly. So I just want to say that over the years, we've collected over 100 instruments, which were generously donated by people from all over Cyprus, Greece, England, from everywhere. So the kind of instruments we need are the ones for orchestras, yes. So we have violins we need, violas, cellos, double basses, flutes, oboe, clarinet, saxophones, trumpets, trombones, French horns, and percussion instruments.
Pretty well everything. Now, who normally donates? Is it from families whose children have done music lessons but then sort of given up as they maybe went to study abroad or something? Where'd you get them from?
So that's a possible scenario, yes. Also, some of these instruments come in different sizes. So, for example, if you start playing the violin when you're young, you need to move up a size and then move up another size up until you reach the adult size. So there's people who have at home their smaller size violin, and other instruments, which they can give to us so our younger children can use. And also, many musicians, either they do this professionally or, just as their hobby, they have their old instrument at home, collecting dust. And what better way to give it a second life by giving it to a child.
Right, now then you said that kids stay with you probably right the way through their education and even past that sometimes. Do the kids who've received instruments from you in the past, if and when the time comes for them to leave, do they give them back?
Of course, if they survive, the time, the time test. But what we do is we have a recycling of instruments. So a 7-year-old, when they grow taller and their arms are longer, they'll give back their smaller violin or their instrument and get a bigger one, and then that one goes to a new child. So it's we're recycling our instruments. But of course, if a child wants to play their instrument, even after they become adults and they can stay with us, we can't act like we have some young people who they're with us for many years and they'll come and play. They can keep the instrument, to be honest. We're not going to take it away from them.
Okay, and I know that you've had a huge impact on the way that music can, if you like, encourage self-confidence and self-esteem among young children, can't it?
Of course, and the secret sauce in our success, if I may say, is that the children, they get to play in an orchestra from day one. So they don't get to study their instrument on their own with a teacher. They get to learn in a group. And from week one, they have an orchestra rehearsal. So it's the power of the group. Even if you don't sound well, you can sound well as part of a full orchestra. So that gives them the confidence when they hear that sound that, I'm a part of this. And slowly they get better and better and better. Of course, we also give emphasis on them feeling well, not just sounding well. But we've seen very fast development with this approach. So it's amazing what the power of the group can do.
It certainly is. It's a wonderful initiative. So I know that people who want to help you, who perhaps don't have musical instruments, can do so financially. You do take donations, I think. Tell us about that too.
We do take donations. They can do that through our website, systemacyprus.com, and we have a tab, donate. People can donate, through their bank accounts, through PayPal. They can become monthly donors, so they can decide on an amount they can donate per month, and it can be as like a standing payment. They can join us for our concerts, watch the children, donate there, buy our merchandise, offer their time. There's so many ways, and so much help is needed. But, people in Cyprus have been very generous with us, and all the children can feel the love. And I want to also mention the collection points for the instruments.
I was going to come to that because although you just said you operate in Larnaca and Nicosia, there are collection points in all towns, aren't there?
Exactly. So we are collaborating with the multifunctional youth centers of the Youth Board of Cyprus, ONEC. So they have centers all over the island. You can find the locations through their website, through ONEC's website. And also, if someone is based in Nicosia, they can visit us in our home. It's based in Old Nicosia. It's just off Lydra Street. So it's at Apollonos Street, number 40. If they want to give us a call, I can give a phone number as well. If they have a question about whether an instrument is needed, or if they feel that the instrument is damaged in a way, of course we have people offering their help to fix the instrument. So they can give us a call and ask. And the number is 99902552.
That is for Systema Cyprus. And we have been talking to Miria Kalli, who is co-founder and director of communications there. Miria, many thanks for your time. I hope you get a wonderful response. And we see these kids going from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.